from USA Today. It's the Ravens Wire. He's on the Window Nation guest hotline. He is Kevin Oestreicher. Kevin, first of all, good morning. How you feeling?
Feeling good. Yeah, Eric DeCosta spoke to the media. Lots of stuff there. Hearing from Jesse Minter soon, and excited to see what Combine Week brings.
Why would Eric DeCosta, something we were talking about, Kevin, a couple minutes ago, be guarded, shall we say, in regards to talking about Lamar Jackson's contract, but appear to be very open in admitting that the Ravens offered Tyler Linderbaum, market-setting money? Why the difference in philosophies here?
Yeah, I guess like DeCosta said, I guess it was just the agreement factor of that he and Lamar have, and that's something that both Lamar and DeCosta have been vocal about. But yeah, I mean, definitely did not hold anything back on Linderbaum in that whole situation. I feel like with Lamar, those negotiations are, I guess, every negotiation is different, obviously, but I think it's the respect that those two have for each other to keep all that stuff internal, like we've heard from both guys. And for Linderbaum, I guess there's been a lot of stuff that has come out about him, and with Lamar too. But in my opinion, I just think that it comes down to the fact that those two have an agreement, and I guess DeCosta and Linderbaum don't in terms of whether they're going to talk about it or not. So I think that's what it comes down to.
Kevin, the only thing I see is we'll be waiting now to hear from Linderbaum's agent to get the response from what Eric just said. I mean, to me now, like you just said, the one negotiation is private, the other is becoming a media event.
Yeah, it's a lot. And, the more that this goes on with Linderbaum and, the more stuff comes out and the more it gets talked about, it feels less and less likely that he does come back. Now, again, that doesn't mean he's not coming back at all. But, there's been all this conversation and there's smoke around this and there's smoke around that. And it's just gotten very weird to me. So I don't know what's going on with it. Obviously, Linderbaum is going to set the market, in my opinion. I think that's set in stone right now. It's just a matter of how much. And, I think that probably Linderbaum's agent and Linderbaum know that if he goes and hits the open market on March 9th, March 11th, when that new league year starts, that money is going to be unbelievable in terms of what he could do in terms of setting that market. So, obviously I think Baltimore is a place that has been great to him over these last couple of seasons as he gets his NFL career started, and hopefully he's able to continue that in Baltimore. But again, I guess there's only so much each side can do, I guess, and the longer this goes on, the weirder it gets for me.
What did you think of Eric's comments about the offensive line?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously work to do there, and there's stuff that he said even just on the podcast. He went on the Inner Circle podcast about him being pretty confident in the young guys, mentioned Emory Jones there, obviously. And yeah, it's something that I think I'm okay with them believing in their young guys and bringing in other guys as long as there's competition, right? That's the big thing for me, where I believe that they have to do work there. They have to bring in players, but at the end of the day, last season, they just handed those jobs out. They didn't have competitions. It was just, okay, this is Falele's job, this is Voorhees' job. And so, again, if those two had earned those opportunities, I would have been okay with, those two earning them and having those jobs, but they didn't. So there's no problem for me with believing in guys. There's no problem with me having them say, okay, we're going to bring in guys too. But at the end of the day, there's going to be change on that line, and some of those options may be internal. Other options are going to be external, and I'm excited to see what they do there.
Now, Kevin, a lot of mocks are having the Ravens with a receiver, which, I'm not crazy about. They have a lot of needs, much more, I think, pass rusher, O-line, corner, much more so than, say, a receiver. What's your opinion?
I'm more open to it, but like you mentioned, it would have to be after they address those other needs first. So, if you're going into the draft and you haven't addressed your offensive line, you haven't addressed your pass rusher, and there's a receiver that comes to you at 14, then that's a different conversation. But if you use free agency and maybe a trade or something to bring in a pass rusher, bring in some offensive line help, that to me opens up your board a little bit more. Now, I would be curious to see what that would look like. Do they still bring in a veteran wide receiver at that point? Is that like a re-signing DeAndre Hopkins or, bringing in somebody else? I think Tez Walker will probably get more opportunities this next season. So if it's a first-round wide receiver and you don't make any other trades or anything, if that's Flowers, Bateman, whoever that rookie first-rounder is, Walker, is that the room you're going to go with? That's a young room. Or are you going to maybe move on from Bateman in that situation? You get an extra draft pick there and spend that on a need. So, I think that with the Ravens, free agency, as it always does, right? It'll dictate a little bit of what they do in the draft, but we know this team is a BPA team. I don't necessarily expect that to change. And, even during that draft with Kyle Hamilton, there was a run of receivers right before the Ravens took Hamilton. And obviously that worked out for the Ravens, but there's something to be said about this team just being able to look at their board and say, hey, this is the top-rated guy on our board. And if there's a guy in need that is ranked, I don't know, if they're at 14 and there's a guy on their board that's ranked 15, and then there's a guy that's ranked 12th, and all of a sudden you have to choose between those guys. One is it a need, one is it a maybe not so big of a need. The Ravens might take that guy who's at the not so big of a need and then just kind of work it out from there. They take the talent and figure it out later. But in my opinion, I'm more open to a wide receiver. But, yeah, they have to figure out the rest of their bigger needs first before doing that.
Kevin Oestreicher, USA Today, the Ravens Wire, Vinny and Haynie, 105.7 The Fan. Kevin, last thing for you. Speaking of need, does Lamar Jackson, Nolan's favorite subject, does he need to be at OTAs more than just one time with a brand-new offensive coordinator and a new staff here?
Ideally, it'd be great, but it is voluntary, so I'm not going to bash anybody for not being there. But it would go a long way, I would say, if Lamar was there, and everybody, right? It's not just a Lamar thing, but it's a new system, and for everybody to show up and I think it'd go a long way if Lamar was there. So yes, more than one time, I think would be great.
What's going on Ravens Wire as the combine is this week?
Yeah, just figuring out who's going to potentially be a good fit for the team, winners, losers, and hopefully identifying some new Baltimore Ravens over the next week or so.
Kevin Oestreicher, have a great Turn It Up Tuesday. We'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, you too, guys. Thanks so much.